What's up, everyone? It's your boy Norn Rad 89 here to bring you another ranking video. You know what time it is. We have a new Hellraiser film out, so we're going to be pinning all 11 Hellraiser films against each other to find out which one comes on top. And of course, that means this is just my list, my personal opinion, and I would love to hear from all of you in the comments section. Share your list of your favorite Hellraiser films, or the ones you've seen, or if you've seen all of them. Share your ranking so we can talk about it. Now let's get into this video because we got 11 films to rank. So let's do it. Roll it. So Hellraiser is a crazy franchise. It's got a lot of stuff like the laminate. Just kidding. The lament configuration. I got a lot of shit for saying laminate configuration on my Hellraiser review. Like, I said it once and then it just like stuck in my brain, and that's how it became. But we're going to be talking about the lament configuration, Doug Bradley, Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty, the Hellraiser world, all 11 films today in their glory. And like, I know all of them aren't the best, but there are some really good films in this franchise and some not so great straight to video films in this franchise as well. And today we're going to talk about all of them. And coming in at the bottom of the barrel, number 11 for me is going to be Hellraiser Hellworld. And this for me is the most just egregious one, the one that I hate the most. It's the one that I find the most offensive. These bottom three are the three in the franchise I can do without, but this one really, Hellraiser Hellworld, this one came out in 2005. It's kind of that digital game world one, has that like matrixy looking cover to it, and Lance Henriksen and Superman couldn't even save this film. Yes, we have a young Henry Cavill in this film, a baby-faced Henry Cavill in here before he became Superman, and even them two couldn't save this film for me. The performances, I wouldn't say are awful. It's more just the story. I hate the story. I can't stand it. And the fact that we do the whole kind of fake out ending and it's Lance Henriksen getting revenge. You know, if you want to see a good movie with him getting revenge for a loved one, go check out Pumpkinhead. It's a lot better than this movie. So yeah, Hellraiser Hellworld sits at the bottom of the barrel, number 11. Coming in at number 10, we have a budget of $300,000, a 2011 film, and this film's only an hour and 15 minutes. So already, those are some huge negatives against this film. And number 10 is going to be Hellraiser Revelations. This is one that I could kind of appreciate. Like, you can see the, like, at the core of it, there's somewhat maybe a good idea at the center of this film, but it's one of those movies you can tell straight to video. You know, they were just doing it real quick to keep the rights to Hellraiser. And like I said, it's an hour and 15 minutes. So that could be a benefit, because if you don't like the film, it's a pretty short film. But the acting performances, like all the stuff in here, and this was, I believe, the first film that they tried to do without Doug Bradley, and yeah, it didn't come out that great. Like, it's just one of those films you can tell the $300,000 budget thing, you can really tell, and it hinders and holds this movie back. And I believe they actually shot this movie in like 3 weeks or like a month or something. Like, they really rushed this one just to get it out there to keep the rights to Pinhead. Coming in at number 9, we have Hellraiser Inferno, directed by Scott Derrickson, and this is one where we kind of follow. It's like that cop drama. Is kind of the era of Rick Bota type films, and Scott Derrickson, they kind of did that whole era of Hellraiser films where it seems like it was just like a spec script, and then they just kind of threw Pinhead and the Cenobites in there to make it a Hellraiser film. But Hellraiser Inferno is one of the ones for me that I don't really find it very offensive or hate this movie or anything like that. It's just, to me, it's the most bland. Is we follow, you know, Joe Thorne, the cop, and he's kind of you know, just a dick cop. He's not a nice guy. Like, this is kind of that era of Hellraiser films too, where we have all these characters in these movies that are not great people. And Joe Thorne's character, he's not a great cop. And this movie, like I said, is just the most bland, most boring to me. Like, you know, like I said, it's not, I don't hate it. Those other ones below this film, they do things that are egregious that I just don't like in the franchise. And for me, Hellraiser Inferno is, like I said, just the most bland, most boring one, kind of forgettable, you know what I mean? But I don't hate it. Coming in at number 8, we have Hellraiser Deader, another directed one by Rick Bota. This is a direct-to-video sequel of Hellraiser, of course, and I like this one because it has this cool investigation story, and I actually like the investigation story of this one, as we follow a reporter as she's investigating a cult that's called the Deaders, and they supposedly have the power to resurrect people and bring them back to life. So she's kind of investigating this kind of video that her, her boss shows her, and then she goes to go dig up some more dirt on it. And this is actually a shot on location in Romania, this film. So that's one of my favorite things about it, is it has this kind of foreign flair to it. And I like the fact that they try to tie it in to the toy maker, as the leader of the cult, I believe, is a descendant of Le Marchand, the toy maker from Bloodline that gets introduced. So this one, for me, at least, it does things to try to tie itself to the Hellraiser lore. And I like our main actress, and I think, like I said, the investigation that she goes on, just the way it progresses. There's some kind of wonky, weird CGI moments in here that was just like, but yeah, Hellraiser Deader is still highly better than the other ones lower on this list for me. Coming in at number 7, we have Gary J. Tunnicliffe's Hellraiser Judgment, and this was the 2018 one, so this was the most recent one before the Hulu Hellraiser one that just came out. And this is a great low-budget sequel to Hellraiser, like kind of straight-to-video or straight-to-streaming one, and I think it did really good. What Gary J. Tunnicliffe tried to do was do the best he could with a low budget and added a new element, as we talk about, like this new, like the auditor. He plays the auditor, and there are these kind of groups, a new section of hell that, goes through the souls and, like, listens to your life and stuff. And just the imagery in this film as they not collect souls, but they go through them, like I said, auditing the souls of where they're supposed to be and all this kind of stuff. And just the imagery in this one's kind of out there, really gross, but it's cool. Got that still S&M kind of vibe from the first 2 Hellraiser films. And like I said, again, Gary J. Tunnicliffe does play the auditor, which I think is pretty cool. This one could have used more Pinhead for sure. This one, I believe, is Paul T. Taylor is our Pinhead in this movie, and we could have had more Pinhead in this movie. That's one major negative with this one. And you can tell the low budget, it hurts it, because you can see that they had a good vision and they wanted to do so much more. But yeah, I still think Hellraiser Judgment is still a solid entry in the franchise for sure. As we're talking about right now, from 7 on up, these are all good to great Hellraiser films for me. Deader is the one that, like, tips the line of, like, is it good? It's like, it's kind of more me being just a Hellraiser mark, and like I said, enjoying the fact Deader tied into Le Marchand. That's why I'm like, I still like that one. But from 7 on up, for me now, these are good to great Hellraiser films. Number 6 is going to be Hellraiser Hellseeker, and this is, I believe, yes, this is my favorite Rick Bota directed Hellraiser sequel, and this one is the one where you actually bring Ashley Lawrence back as Kirsty's character, as she's married to, I believe it's Dean Winters, the actor. Yeah, Dean Winters, he plays Trevor, and they're married, and there's a car accident in the beginning, and she dies, and then he's kind of thrusted into his own version of hell. And I like Dean Winters. He's, hilarious, because he does, like, those cool, funny insurance commercials that crack me the fuck up. But in this movie, it's just fascinating to watch him in this movie, and he's kind of the shitty husband, and, like, not a great person, but it's kind of cool when you get to the end and you find out what Kirsty did and kind of sacrificed these souls to Pinhead to get out of it, and her husband's soul was one of the people she sacrificed. To me, Kirsty was always one of my most favorite and underrated final girls in any, like, horror franchise, and I think this one just cements it as she's a fucking survivor. Like, Kirsty's a survivor, because by this time, in this point, Hellraiser Hellseeker, we get to it, we know this is years and decades later, and she, like I said, she's a survivor. She knows how to, and then whenever she comes across Pinhead or that lament configuration, she's gonna know what to do to get out of it. And like I said, she's a true survivor as she sacrifices these souls to scapegoat on being one of the people Pinhead's gonna take. So yeah, I think that's great. And like I said, Hellseeker is my favorite Rick Bota one. It still has some flavor to it. It might be, very bland, kind of TV movie-ish, but I'm so happy that Ashley Lawrence came back too. Like I said, Hellseeker is just one of those kind of nostalgia love ones. It might be a guilty pleasure, but yeah, sits comfortable here at this number 6 spot. Now we're here at the top 5, and before we get down to that, consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel, especially if you're new. That way you get more videos like this, rankings, reviews, and physical media collection updates. And now, as we are here, coming in at number 5, like I said, bringing us into the top 5 is going to be Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. And man, this might be a hot take putting this one at number 5, because I do like this film. I really do. It's just the 4 above it I think are better films. But number 5, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, is probably the one where you get to see Pinhead have the most fun, as he's discovered who he was before he became a Cenobite. and now wants to escape. And because he discovered who he was, he gets stuck in limbo, and it's like part of this, also this kind of weird kind of statue that has like all this stuff, kind of like the wooden stuff with the face of Pinhead and like body parts nailed to it. Like there's just cool special effects, and like what I'm trying to say, cool, realistic, and special effects in this one. Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth introduces some new Cenobites too, and we get to see Pinhead walk the earth outside of the box. So it's a very fun kind of MTV 1990s vibe. I believe this one came out like 1992 or 93, so it has that really early 90s MTV vibe to it. It was written by Clive Barker, Tony Randall, and Peter Atkins, so you can still kind of see the Clive Barker nature in the film. So yeah, Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth is still a very joyous, amazing one in the franchise. And I know this is usually the point where people stop. Usually when people watch the Hellraiser franchise, they go 1, 2, 3, and then they stop. So yeah, this is like one of those ones that's famously known for that, because I've talked to many people that are like, I've just seen the first 2, or I've just seen the first 3. I've never gone past that. But there's still a lot more to offer. As you're going to see, there are 3 other films above this in the franchise. So let's talk about, actually 4 other films, my bad. This is number 5. So there are 4 other films above this one in the franchise. So let's get on to them. Coming in at number 4, we have the last theatrical released Hellraiser film, and that's Hellraiser Bloodline. And this is actually famously known for being Adam Scott's first theatrical performance, I believe, first big movie performance. And for me, this one, I just love Bloodline because of what they tried to add with the lament configuration and the whole Marchand and the toy maker and the making of the box. That's my favorite thing about this film, and the fact that it takes place in a past time, a present time, and a future time. So we have a film that takes place at 3 different timelines, and it actually works. Add to that, we have Valentina Vargas playing Angelique, which is probably one of my favorite Cenobites since Pinhead, like one of my favorite designs. Her and Doug Bradley have such amazing chemistry on screen, so that's another great thing about this film. And like I said, the fact that it takes place in the future, it serves as a prequel and a sequel at the same time, and it works. Even though there were some crazy production problems with this film when they finished filming this film, that the director, they actually got a new director to come in and finish and reshoot other stuff for this movie. So yeah, it's wild, but Bloodline holds a special place in my heart and sits very comfortable here at this number 4 spot. Now, rolling in at number 3 on our list of ranking for the Hellraiser franchise is going to be the most recent one, the Hulu Hellraiser. Just came out, and man, Jamie Clayton is easily, I think, the best Pinhead since Doug Bradley. We can't argue that at all. She's definitely the best since Doug Bradley. And this film, I think, is David Bruckner, and what they were able to do with this movie, just story-wise, was really enrich the Hellraiser franchise and add some of my favorite new elements to it, as I think the lament configuration is the main star of this movie, as they have different names for the 6 configurations, and adding in like the prong that pricks you and the blood, and once you're marked, they can take your soul at any time. Like the Cenobites are actually kind of main characters in this film as well. Like they don't do like a lot of action stuff, but they're there, and they're kind of playing like with the pieces of the puzzle and like what people are doing. And I like this film because you could see everybody's motives, protagonists, antagonists, everybody. You can see their motives and what they're doing and their reasoning in the story, and it makes freaking sense. So that's what I mean. This is just, the people who wrote this film have a good understanding of the human psyche and what humans do. And like I said, the progression of a Hellraiser film, it works. Like I said, Hellraiser, this one, the only reason it's sitting here lower than the top 2 you're going to see coming up next is this one missed out on the gore factor and pushing the envelope there. It doesn't push the envelope in the gore factor, and it feels like a kind of overproduced film, but that's mainly because a lot of the Hellraiser films don't get a lot of money and backing in them, and this one actually got a budget to use, and you could kind of feel the slickness, overproduced value in this film. And like I said, they didn't really push the envelope in terms of gore factor, and that's why you're going to see these other 2 films above this one. Coming in at number 2, we have Hellbound Hellraiser 2, and man, I struggled with this because number 1 and number 2, you obviously know now. I told you Hellbound Hellraiser 2 is my number 2. Hellraiser, the first one, is number 1. I struggled with this because if you ask me next week or maybe next month, I might tell you that Hellbound Hellraiser 2 is better than the first one. Like, they kind of flip-flop. I have a lot of fun with this sequel. This is one of the best horror sequels out there. what Hellbound Hellraiser 2 does, and what's amazing at it, is that it kind of goes with the same beats and follows the same tempo and story of the previous Hellraiser film, but it amps it up to 11. It adds in new Cenobite designs. We get to go to like a different a different section of hell, or we actually get to go inside the box and see Leviathan. And you add some new characters. Ashley Lawrence is more comfortable as the Kirsty character and actually does more in this film, because she's not really a main character in that first film until like the third act. So yeah, this second film really does everything you love about that first film, but a little bit better, and adds in some of the more things. But the reason this one I'm putting it here at number 2 today is because just the atmosphere and the vibe I get from that first film, it just really sticks with me. And rewatching them before the new Hulu Hellraiser came out, I really do adore that first film. So that's why I kind of went with this second film here at this number 2 spot. But I'm talking so highly of the second one and comparing it to the first one because that's how great they are. They're upper echelon horror, body horror films, and 2 very good movies. And like I said, even if you're like the Hellraiser franchise, they do dip in quality as it gets down there. And like I said, I have the top 2 being the number 1, number 2 films. So, but they're stepping in the right direction, because number 3 is the Hulu Hellraiser one that just came out. So they're really stepping in the right direction with this franchise. But now, number 1, the top dog, is going to be 1987's Hellraiser, Clive Barker, and one of the greatest and, like I said, best body horror films, peak pinnacle of special effects and practical effects in the late 80s, man. Doug Bradley's performance, even though he's only on screen for about 6 or 7 minutes in this movie, Doug Bradley leaves a lasting impression and became one of the greatest horror icons of all time. I like Julia and Frank in this one, as they're kind of the main antagonists in this movie. Besides the Cenobites, they actually are the main antagonists and driving the main story for the first 2 acts. It's about Julia and Frank. Then that third act, we kind of we add in a spice, we add in the Cenobites, we add in Kirsty, and what are they going to be, and add to the board when we add them as the pieces. So I like this film because it's dramatic. It's about love. It's about obsession. It kind of plays off very soap opera-y, but I like that it has that nature to it where it feels like a dramatic soap opera. It doesn't feel like a gore movie or a torture porn movie. It doesn't. It's a very serious film that takes its tone serious and all the way through, and has some great money shots, like for real, like some of the best. And yeah, Hellraiser will always be near and deep close to my heart as one of my favorite horror films of all time. But like I said in the beginning of this video, this is just my ranking of the Hellraiser franchise and what I think from worst to best is. So that means I would love to hear from all of you in the comments section. Share your opinions and what do you think of this franchise. I'm so excited now that we're 11 deep in this franchise, and because we finally got this new one and it did very well, a lot of people, the great majority of people, enjoy the new Hellraiser film. So I'm so excited about that, because that means we're probably going to be getting more Jamie Clayton as Pinhead. I can't wait. So yeah, and most importantly, have a safe and happy day, everyone. Peace out.